We just discussed how every mode has a unique formula of notes, which gives it a unique sound. The next level is to identify the specific notes within each mode which are most important and really differentiate it from the other modes. And those notes can be harmonized into specific chords, which will really bring out the sound of that mode. This is a concept that really helped me understand modes. The scales by themselves, that's one level, but once you see that they can be harmonized and the most important chords within them are emphasized, then you see how it works. So I'm going to demonstrate. We're in C Ionian, aka C major. Got all our white keys here. Okay, turn the volume up a little bit. Now, I'm going to pedal a C chord here and play that again. Great, C major. Now hit the chord again. Now, starting from D. Hit the chord again, starting from E. Now I can keep going up my scale. So, did I play 3 different modes? Some would say I did, and this is where there is interpretation. Some would say I just played 3 different modes, Ionian, Dorian, and Phrygian, over a C chord. But I'm of the school that I did not. I never changed mode. I just played different scales. It's the harmony that creates the mode. I never changed a C chord, therefore I never left C Ionian. Every mode has specific notes which really give it its own sound. Now, Ionian is kind of a beast unto itself. It's so familiar to our ears. Some would say every note is important. But let's try to break it down. Now, in any mode, your tonic chord, is always going to be crucial. I should label that because you're always resolving to your tonic. So that's a given. Now, in Ionian, the 4th and the leading tone 7th are characteristic notes. Now some would say that the 3rd, but when you create your 1 chord, that's kind of a given. You've got a major 3rd. But your 4th and your 7th. So when we build chords with the 4th, you get your major 4 chord, and when you build the chord on the 7th, you get the, that's supposed to be on the F. It's a little sloppy. Let me do that better. LoFi here. Okay, you get your 7 diminished. So these are the chords that are really going to bring out the sound of this mode. And then any chord which uses the 4th degree or 7th degree is really going to add to the sound. So the 5th chord, building the chord on the 5th, uses the leading tone as its 3rd. Okay, you can stack this chord on top of that chord to make your 5-7, which you see constantly. That's why that's so strong. Okay, and then you have your 4 and your 5 resolve into your 1. There's a few thousand songs, maybe tens of thousands doing that. Your 2 minor chord uses the 4th. Okay, that can resolve to the 5th. And we can then also add in these. You've got your 3rd, your major 3rd here. But harmonize it. It's got the leading tone, and your 6 has the tonic and the leading tone, the tonic and the 3rd on top of it. So all of these together have a very unique flavor. Now let's compare our Ionian mode to the other major scale modes. The next major scale mode is Lydian. All right, starting on C, we're going to create C Lydian. Now remember, Lydian has a sharp 4th. Well, that's easy here. We just sharp the F. Now we've got C Lydian. So the strongest chords in C Lydian are going to be chords which use the sharp 4th. Okay, well, the first one would be, obviously the first one would be this one. Okay, but in all honesty, this one doesn't occur quite as often. This would be sharp 4 diminished, but that actually is not as common. What you're more likely to find is this. You have a 2 major chord. So when your 1 chord is in a progression with the 2 major chord, that's a big giveaway. You are in Lydian, and there are many songs which are just those 2 chords. That's all you need. And by the way, modal progressions are often very simple. A 2 chord vamp will give you what you need. The other chord would be your 7. Using the sharp 4 on top, and then your 7 becomes 7 minor. All right, so these are your strong Lydian chords. 2 major, 7 minor, or sharp 4 diminished. The next major mode is Mixodian, and just to re-emphasize, major meaning using a major third. Let's do Mixodian. Mixodian has a flatted 7th, okay? Well, using C, that's easy. We just flat our B. We've now got C Mixodian. All right, so the strongest chords in Mixodian are going to be the ones that highlight the flat, or that use the flatted 7th. Well, the first one obviously would be the chord on the flatted 7th. So when you have a flat 7 major chord and your 1 chord, that's a big giveaway. You are in Mixodian, and there are many progressions which are just that. Okay, your 5 chord can use that. It becomes 5 minor. Okay, that could happen. The other one would be your 3 chord. Can use the flatted 7th. That becomes 3 diminished. Honestly, not as common, but a possibility. So those are your 3 Mixodian chords, which would resolve to your tonic. Now, let's build the minor modes. All right, we'll start with C minor, C natural minor, aka C Aeolian. I've got it written out here. Remember, that's a mode of 3 flats. So, the first characteristic note is going to be the flatted 3rd, obviously, because you need to create the sound of minor. The next one that really differentiates it is the flatted 6. That is the strong characteristic note of Aeolian. So you want to have chords that emphasize the flatted 6. So the first one would obviously be the flatted 6. Whoop, come on, marker. When you do that, we get a flat 6 major chord. All right, or the other one would be the 4. And that would be a 4 minor chord. These are 2 very strong chords that are going to give you the sound of minor. Once again, you could just have either one of these and that, and you know you are in Aeolian. And in fact, a little side note, when I started analyzing music, learning these things, I started noticing that this chord and that chord, the flat 6 and the 1, occur so frequently. I called it the golden chord progression. It always works and always sounds good no matter what genre you are in. The other most common chord that is often put between them is a flat 7, because this is another characteristic note. So use chords to emphasize this tone. So build a chord on that. You got your flat 7 major chord. So those are the notes that you want to use, or rather, those are the notes you want to use to build chords, all right, in that mode. From Aeolian, let's compare that to the next minor mode, which is Dorian. Now, Dorian, it's like minor, but with a major 6. So we carry it down. We carry down the E flat, we carry down the B flat, but leave the A alone. A is natural. That gives us that minor, but with a slightly uplifting sound. All right, so that's the characteristic note of Dorian, that major 6. So we want chords that highlight that note. Obviously, you could build a chord on that. Okay, you have your E flat. That becomes 6 diminished. Honestly, though, that is not as common. What you're more likely to find is this: 2 minor. Remember, this is 1 minor. So you have 1 minor and 2 minor together. That's telling you right away that is Dorian. The other one would be building here, F, A, C, okay, in the key of C anyway, 4 major. All right, so these 2 chords, your 2 minor or your 4 major chord resolving to a 1 minor, that is telling you this is a Dorian mode. The next minor mode is Phrygian, the 3rd mode that has a flatted 2nd. So that is the difference between Aeolian or natural minor. I've brought down the C minor scale again, all the same flats, but now we flat our 2nd and it becomes Phrygian. That's the characteristic note of Phrygian in comparison to Aeolian or any other mode. So you want chords that have that note. Obviously, you could build a chord on that note. That'd be your first choice. And what you get is a flat 2 major chord. So if you have a 1 minor chord and a flat 2 major chord, that's a big giveaway. You are in the Phrygian mode, and that's actually pretty common. The other chord you'd be more likely to see would be your 7. We have B flat, in this case, in the key of C anyway, B flat. You would have a 7 minor chord. All right, that's the other possibility. And you could have, now theoretically you'd have your 5, it'd be 5 diminished. Honestly, you're not going to see that very often. You're more likely to see this and maybe that. But those are your Phrygian cadence chords that are going to get you back to your tonic. The final mode is Locrian. The 7th mode, remember Locrian is like Phrygian, which we just did, except now we also flat the 5th. Now, Locrian is the oddball mode because when we flat the 5th, the 1 chord becomes diminished. I don't think I've ever seen the pure Locrian mode used in music because it's very unusual to have a 1 diminished chord as your tonic and then resolve back to it. If anyone watching this does know of the pure Locrian mode used somewhere, feel free to write in the comments and let me know. So it exists more in theory, but let's, for theory, just analyze it. So the characteristic note is a flatted 5th. So obviously you're going to want that. So we could have this, and that becomes a flat 5 major chord, okay? Or other notes have the flatted 5th. We could have this, and that becomes flat 3 major. So there you go. I will say I've listened to a lot of heavy metal, and definitely in that genre they like to give the essence and outline of Locrian with scales and riffs, but not necessarily using a 1 diminished chord as a tonic. So these are chords that are going to give you that Locrian sound, emphasizing that flatted 5th. Alright, this has been a thorough lo-fi summary, but I hope it's been helpful. So, in summary, every mode has characteristic notes which give it its unique flavor, and look for the chords which use those notes. That will give you the sound of that mode. Thanks for watching.